If you had about $7,000 to spend on a watch, what would you get? A pre-owned Omega, maybe an IWC, a Panerai, a Tudor? You definitely can't touch Rolex, not at that price. I ended up getting this Seiko. And you're thinking, what's wrong with you, mate? And that's what I asked myself, what is wrong with me? And you know what? After having this watch for a month on the wrist, there's something wrong with this watch. Because I can't take it off my wrist. I don't want to wear my Omegas. I don't want to wear my Tudors. I don't want to wear my German watches. This has spent so much wrist time. For those who know, this watch comes out of the Grand Seiko factory. And I've had my eyes on a Grand Seiko for a while. And yet, some of the watches haven't gelled with me, they haven't spoken to me. And when I saw this, and the quality and the detail and the finishing, you see, what we've got here is an ever brilliant case. This is a new proprietary steel from Seiko. And to my eyes, it's just a little bit brighter than 904L stainless steel and extremely corrosion resistant. And the finishing is some of the finest brushing and razor sharp edges I've seen in a long time. And yet, I know that the watch is hand assembled in the Grand Seiko factory. That movement is an 8L35. It's a super tough, reliable Grand Seiko movement. Admittedly, it's not regulated, and yet this watch hasn't lost or hasn't gained 1 second in 1 month. And you're thinking, no, impossible. Well, I'll tell you how that came to pass. But before we get onto that, if you look at this watch, I examined the Zaratsu polishing on those baton hands. And you know what? The mirror finishing is exceptional. They're that good. I can't find a fault, a technical fault on this watch. I'm looking, I'm trying, and yet when it comes to all watches, we know that watches have pluses and minuses, goods, bads, faults, indifferences, and with this particular watch here, I'm struggling to find any technical faults. And that shows me that this watch has been assembled meticulously out of a really, really high tolerance factory. Now, for those who are in the know, this watch is another reissue, a 55-year anniversary of the famous 62 MAS, that first diver produced in 1965, and Seiko's done an absolutely spectacular job on this watch. I think this particular model is one of the bargains in their higher end lineup, and I say that for a reason, because I know I'm getting a Grand Seiko finished watch. It's hand assembled in the Grand Seiko factory, the movement is from a Grand Seiko. It's not regulated, it's not as adorned or decorated as the Grand Seiko, but I tell you what, I took this watch down to my watchmaker and said, can you open it up and can we have a look inside? I can do it myself, but I thought, you know what, let a professional have a look at this watch. And he got his tools, he opened up the back, we had a good look inside, and I thought, just what I expected. Finished to a decent standard, but a really good workhorse. Solid, reliable movement. But my watchmaker took it one step further. He placed this watch on his professional time grapher, and we had a look. That 8L35 movement, I understand why Grand Seiko has used it, and it's so tough and reliable, but there's zero positional variance. In other words, there's zero deviation in this watch's accuracy when you change it from vertical, horizontal, up, down. It doesn't matter what this does on the wrist. That line, if it's gaining 4 seconds or 5 or 10 or losing 3, it's going to be accurate all the way through. So my watchmaker had a thought. He got his little tools on his professional time grapher, he tweaked this, he goes, have the watch back, Pete, wear it, let me know what you think. And you know what? It's been a month, and that beautiful lollipop seconds hand splashed in blue. You see how it just went past the 12 o'clock? Every time I get up in the morning and I grab this watch to put it on my wrist, it goes past that 12 o'clock marker exactly the same time as my computer, exactly the same time as my iPhone. This watch hasn't gained or hasn't lost 1 second in 1 month. And that's a bit of a freak. So I put it down to the movement. It's a Grand Seiko movement. Admittedly unregulated, but gee, what a stable piece. But get away from that movement. The case is 39mm and change. It's a lovely petite experience. Its profile, that finishing is exceptional to say the least. I've not seen such beautiful brushing that's so finesse, except on a Grand Seiko. Now you might have noticed that the sailcloth strap on this watch, the blue, matches exactly to that dial. It's like it's a marriage made in heaven. This strap and this watch came out of the same factory. That's what it looks like. It looks like it's OEM. And this is where the journey of this watch started for me. You see, Artem contacted me and they said they wanted to send me this blue strap for me to have a look at. And I said to them, don't send it out. I don't have a blue watch. Don't. Now about a week later, I got a message from Artem saying that there's a parcel on its way to me. And when it arrived, I opened it up and there was 2 sailcloth straps. This one here with a white stitching and a blue one with dark stitching. And that put me in a position because I didn't have a blue watch. So I went out looking and I thought, well, you know what? I've always wanted to have a look at one of these watches. So I picked up this watch, put the strap on, exceptional. Dynamic, outstanding, a marriage made in heaven. So I purchased the watch just to match it up with this blue strap. Now you're probably thinking, Pete, you got some serious issues, mate. And you know what? You're absolutely right. But not only me, I think we all have. When it comes to watches, we've got 10, 20, 30, 50 watches, 100, and yet we've only got one wrist. I can only put them on one wrist. And that's a damn shame, because there's so many nice, beautiful watches out there, just like this one. But I digress. I'm totally gobsmacked at the quality and the finish of this unit. It says Seiko, but everything else on this watch is screaming Grand Seiko, and that makes me happy. The attention to detail, the quality finish, the way that everything just works. And it works really, really well. In fact, the feeling of this bezel is finesse. For a Seiko, well, it says Seiko, it's finesse. And surprisingly, it lines up. And it lines up really well. So, the moral of the story, maybe you need to spend a lot of money to get a really good Seiko these days. I don't know. But is it a Seiko or is it a Grand Seiko? All I can say is that I've been wearing this on the wrist for the past month while alternating other watches, and this is my go-to. I've left the Omegas in the watch box. I've left my German watches in the watch box. Tudors, I've left them in the watch box. I've neglected to love them because of this. And that's not good. This watch has a disease. It's killing my other watches. Putting all things aside, I'm probably still in the honeymoon mode with this watch. I get it. But you know what? I want to say a big thank you to Grand Seiko for producing such a lovely piece. Thanks for watching.